I mean, issues were raised. We had contentious issues about, like, for example, expulsion and readmission.
The third defendant shall hold an emergency national delegate conference for the sole purpose of adopting the amended draft constitution and to deal with any unresolved membership issue. End of quotes. These are not my words. These are the words of the order. So what part of that statement can anybody not understand?
Hello and welcome to Bottom Line, the Good Governance and Enlightenment Campaign Talk Show. Tonight, we will frame the just-ended court-ordered convention of the Opposition All People's Congress, APC. The court order was the adoption of a new constitution for the party, a measure that will sound the death knell of selection of delegates and flag bearer of the party, which had characterized the party over the years. Election is now the new deal. Reports suggest the proceedings in Makini proceeded very well. Some people, however, claim there were flies in the ointment. In the studios to gauge the process and outcome of the convention are Sidi Yaya Tunis, Acting Publicity Secretary, All People's Congress, former Majority Leader and Head of Government Business in Parliament, the Honorable Ibrahim Bundu, who was one of the representatives of the plaintiff, Alfred Peter Conteh, and the 21-man committee. We also have in the studios the chairman of the Political Parties Registration Commission, PPRC, Abdullahi Bangura. Welcome to Bottom Line, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
You too can join the conversation by following us live on Facebook at SLBC TV channel 31 or by SMS to 030022 639. The number again, 030022 639. My name is Joseph Egbenda Kapua. Welcome back, gentlemen. Now let's get started with the program itself. All of you went to Makini last week, I think Thursday or Friday till Sunday, for the convention following the court order. Now, Mr. Tunis, what was the role like, to you as the party to these orders? I mean, going to Makini was as a result of a court order and all of it. Take us through the road, I mean, from where we were, until the court order, probably how it all ended in Makini.
Thank you very much. You could recall that the idea of constitutional review started immediately post 2018 general elections, wherein a committee known as the 9-man committee was sent across the country to ascertain the reason why the party lost in 2018 presidential elections. Just about the same time, we had a group of young men who started calling for reform. And the 9-man committee report and the call from so many people within the membership of the party for reform, suggested that we look at the constitution itself. So a constitutional review committee was set up to start looking at the constitution and propose certain amendments to the constitution. That process itself was completed, and we headed to Boloko in January 2020 to adopt the then constitution. But just as we arrived in Boloko, we were taken to court and an injunction was slammed on us. So we, in the course of us being in court, we also embarked on a series of negotiations, and we again and again looked at the constitution, invited inputs from the membership all across the world, and we received so many inputs, including from the NRM itself. And at some point we reached an agreement, signed an MOU, and the initial court matter by NRM was withdrawn. But 2 days later, Alfred Peter Conteh took the party to court again. and another injunction was slammed on us under Justice Adrian Fisher. But in the process, we asked the judge to grant us a variation so that we can begin the democratic process of looking at the Constitution and possibly adopting it. An initial order was given in February, but of course we had issues.
What were the express orders?
Well, in February we were asked to go into the conference to adopt the Constitution and to deal with unresolved membership issues. But in the order, certain categories of people were also exempted from participating as delegates. So of course we had issue understanding the order, especially when it came to the issue of unresolved membership. So we needed clarity on that, and we appealed as a party. In the process of the appeal is still on, by the way, but in the process we went back to court and requested for an extension of the order, the initial order, to go in and do the adoption. And on the 9th of August, the judge granted us another order, but then this time with specific activities, time-bound, and clearer than the first order. And in the second order, he asked us to have a 21-man committee constituted, and the composition of that 21-man committee was very clear as to the representative from the party to people representing Alfred Peter Conteh, and we also were ordered to submit the draft to the PPRC against a certain date, and also to do elections of delegates, 5 each from every constituency. But like all of these actions were time bound, and we completed all those, and the court ordered us to head to Makeni for the sole purpose of adopting this constitution. And the conference should be on the 17th, 18th, and 19th of September 2021, which is what we completed in Makeni on Sunday.
So how many delegates are we talking about in all?
Well, we're talking about 1,190 delegates or so, according to the roll call, about that we are registered on the first day of the conference.
And like you said, the major issue was to convene in Makeni and adopt the Constitution. What are the major highlights of the Constitution, if you like?
Well, a lot. I mean, the Constitution itself comprises 8 chapters. We talked about from the fundamentals of the chapter, the party in chapter 1 all the way to miscellaneous in chapter 8. But then we looked at so many issues. We looked at the structure of the party itself, the organization of the party, the administration of the party. We also looked at issues that have to do with elections, which really has been one of the turning issue with regards to the 1995 Constitution. We also looked at, how we deal with disciplinary issues, as well as addressing grievances within the party, which for us is very important in this new constitution. We looked at disability issues surrounding empowerment of women as far as it relates to appointments and even elections, their participation and all. And we looked at party financing, funding and all. And so the delegates had their chances of really seeing what we have in the Constitution. They had the opportunity to ask questions, and they also made their proposals, which were reflected in the Constitution before the adoption itself took place.
Like you mentioned, one significant aspect of the Constitution, more or less, is the fact that assumption now to national, position, structure of the party now requires election over selection. How does the party and probably the entirety of your membership, how do they receive this new phenomenon?
This was an opportunity for the delegates to have their say as far as the amendments to the Constitution is concerned. I mean, every other organ within the party or structure, or have had their inputs before, and this was really the last stage. And so some of these proposals really came from the audience, and some were supported openly. Like, for example, when it came to the issue of elections, first of all, the eligibility criteria are very clearly stated now, what qualifies you to run for a particular office, and even the tenure of those offices, from the chairman, the office of the chairman, all the way to the list office, the polling center executive. And also we've separated the office of the chairman and leader. First it was chairman and leader, now we have chairman separate from that of leader of the party, and those are clearly defined, their roles are clearly defined. So like he stated, now it is all about elections and no more selections or consultation, and the criteria are very clear as to what the qualifications are as far as running for these offices and how long you can hold. Like, for example, for any office you're elected for, you can only hold that office for 2 terms of 3 years. So you have, after you've completed,
whether consecutive or not.
Well, it has, whether consecutive or not, 2 terms of 3 years. Once you complete that, you no longer run for that particular office. And one major, thing that really came up is this issue about, the 30% minimum for women. I mean, it came from the floor that, when the party is in power, we shall, it's now a must, it is not even a condition, we shall ensure that minimum 30% of all appointment positions will be allocated to women. That is very, very much key. It's a huge step towards the empowerment of women. And we went further to say that we will endeavor to also increase their participation in elections, not only at party level, but also at national level. So which means all of those obstacles, those bottlenecks that make it difficult for women to compete in party elections and general elections, we as a party must endeavor to remove them so that women will have increased participation in the electionary process, both at party level and at national level. When it came to disability issues also, it stood out this time in the Constitution, because persons with disability will now be represented both at the highest decision-making body, which is the National Delegates Conference, and also at the National Advisory Committee level. So you will now have representation for persons with disability at these 2 very important, decision-making levels of our party.
Am I right to say at the end of the day, the Constitution itself was adopted?
It was.
But there were reservations before the adoption. I mean, was it a situation about people just going there and then adopting it, or critical, certain people raised, some contentious issues?
Issues were raised.
Do we know them?
We had contentious issues about, like, for example, expulsion and readmission of members. Like, for example, there was a recommendation in the Constitution that if the National Delegate Conference expels someone, the National Advisory Committee, which is the second highest decision-making body, can readmit that person. It was debated and voted upon, just as any other in all of the chapters, and the delegates, said no. The National Delegates Conference is the highest decision-making body of a party. They cannot make a decision and a lesser body overturns that decision. So if you are expelled by the National Delegates Conference, you must be readmitted by the National Delegates Conference, not the National Advisory Committee. So you have issues like those. And some people also, when it came to the qualification of persons wanting to run for, flag bearer, for example, it is recommended that you must have been a member at least 5 years, paid up member, continuous. Some people were recommending 10 years, and so there were a few debates, but in the end, after the vote, the 5 years continuous clause stood, and was.
What was the mode of adoption? Was it put to a vote, acclamation?
Well, it was put to a vote by the adoption itself.
Yes.
It was a vote. It was a vote through ballot, secret ballot. Yes, okay. It was a vote by all delegates through secret ballot.
All right, let me allow you to rest and cross over to the former leader of government business, the Honorable Ibrahim Bondo. You were also in the hall in Makini. Talk to me about your initial reaction, to the road to the convention itself in Makini. I mean, when it all dawned on you that you had to get to Makini for the convention. I mean, what was your initial reaction? First, as a member of the party yourself, and maybe second, as one of the representatives of Mr. Alfred Peter Conteh.
Thank you very much for having me, and I must say that I'm one of the happiest today to see that a very long process, long-awaited process, has now been actualized by our convergence in Makini. I say so because, going to 2005, when I was the member of parliament then, we were in courts. We left the courts and we were ordered, but this time, that time it was a different order to go to convention. So we went to convention, and we were very happy that we were able to get our executive together. And one of the, if I could remember, one of the things that was very, very clear there was about the 1995 Constitution. So we had that on the agenda, and that agenda was adopted. That took us to 2009 when we had another convention. We were at Makini also, and the issue of the Constitution came up very robustly, and of course we made progress by having a committee set up. I think it was headed by one of the new members of parliament then, but he's a lawyer by profession, the current opposition leader, yes, Honorable Chair Nomajiba, and a couple of them. We have been fighting over Constitution, and that took us up to 2013, and the opportunity did not present itself. So I was not surprised when after 2018, the opportunity came back, and the loud cry came from young men for us to do what we have just completed. So my happiness, if I say I'm happy, it stems from that, 2005, 2009, 2013. So if I am fortunate and I'm an active participant from being a member of the 21-man committee that put the framework together leading to what happened in Makini over the weekend, I'm very, very happy, and to say the least. As a lawmaker, when you have a bill, this was a pending bill ranging from 2005 to current. So today, I'm happy not only as a member of the APC, but as a participant, an active participant. But I did not have the luxury of staying 2 hours. I was there at the opening. I was very, very, and we had a funeral, a very urgent funeral in the family, so I had to leave, because I was there very, very much charged to see how we can, actually see this process. But even when I was not there, experienced APC people, former members of parliament, and other attendant comrades, they ensured that this process was completed. So I want to congratulate those of you who stayed on up to that time. I wish, but I'm part of that history.
As representative of Mr. Alfred Peter Conteh, I mean, what do we know? What is his key contention with respect to the just ended convention? Because even after, we'll now know why you went to court and why you went to McKinney. But even after that, I mean, he was on radio, on television, raised a few concerns, if you like. I mean, as representative during that 21-man committee, what contentious issues do you really think were more or less the concern of Mr. Conteh?
Well, I think it's the process, and the process here meaning if you have the order with you, what I do, there are certain specific instructions in the form of an order, i.e., you are ordered to go and hold an election in all the 132 constituencies and elect 5 from each of those constituencies. At the end of the exercise, we started the exercise, at the end of the exercise, that 132 from 5 from each constituency was not achieved. And I think it was 125. So that's one issue he has been going around highlighting. And the second issue also was the process of putting the delegates together. If you remember, I can refer to a letter addressed to the chairman of PPRC through his lawyer, saying that some people or some organs that have been included as members of that delegate list, he has some questions. So I don't know how that was resolved, but it was the letter was officially written to the commissioner for PPRC, and mercifully is here, so he can elaborate on that. And also the order in terms of how we go to McKinney and what's the topic. It's very, very clear. I don't want to quote anything here. I want to quote it from the
Proceed.
This is the order, and I'm not quoting my own words, and I'm quoting the words of the judge. He said, this is, I think it's page 5 of page 16, and the order here, I'm getting difficulty. I want you to read, okay. Under analysis of the evidence, as I have pointed out on the 19th of April, sorry, the age is there now. Yes, as I have pointed out on the 19th of April, I gave a number of orders. It's perhaps necessary that I set out these orders for purpose of clarity. 66. Consequent upon the above, I shall make the following orders. 1. The terms of the injunctions granted by this court on 26th day of February 2021 continues in force, subject to the following variations set out in sub-paragraph 2.1.11. The third defendant shall hold an emergency national delegate conference for the sole purpose of adopting the amended draft constitution and to deal with any unresolved membership issue. End of quotes. These are not my words. These are the words of the order. So what part of that statement can anybody not understand? I am not a lawyer, but I'm a lawmaker. I believe this is a two-item agenda, but those were things we debated, we deliberated upon, and we ended up where we are. And I heard Alfred Conteh also bringing out those. So these are just some of the things. But if you ask me, the order is very clear. So going to McKinney with a single agenda, of course, I am part of the people who made the agenda, and I said what I said. And but you know, when you are in a committee, you don't have the luxury of saying, no, this is what I want.
All right, but Mr. Conteh had his representatives at the conference. I mean, you left after the opening sessions also. Are we aware whether or not they raised these issues?
Honestly, I have not spoken to him after he traveled back. You know, tried to reach him. Even we were supposed to hold a meeting before the departure of Mr. Conteh this evening. We tried severally this morning. So, but given what has happened, he left since Thursday. Okay. So Thursday to Monday, that was hectic. He's not a young man like me. You know, so.
The Honorable, another representative, I mean, you were at the opening session. Another representative of Mr. Conteh, I think the Honorable Ibrahim Sori, appeared at some point to be booed at some stage. I mean, you were there when he was making the statement. I mean, it had to take the chairman, you know, of the program, you know, to calm the people. Let's just have a look at this.
Property, like how we all get property, you have them born you, born myself, we all inherit a property. If we this property, before we can turn rebel to we own party, before we can be people that want to destroy the party, we say, before we can turn to any other thing, let we go to court, let the court can help. Let we go to court, let the court help. Because A, B, C, ABC.
You just saw there at some point he was or appeared to be booed while he was making a statement on behalf of Mr. Conteh. As representatives, you know, during the opening session, did you feel part of the proceedings, or did you feel a little alienated?
It was unfortunate, to say the least. But we politicians, you know, today they will say Hosanna, tomorrow they will crucify you. So these are not things that we pay attention. But be that as it may, the audience has its own right to react the way they reacted. But it was unfortunate. But if you ask me, I wish it, you know, because we are in McKinney, very, very, very hopeful, to say the least, to bring the party together. I mean, the question of that was why everybody that is a party to that 21-man committee, every faction was given the opportunity to make a statement. And in fact, if I should let you know, I think Alfred Conteh mentioned it, prior to going to McKinney, we met, the four of us met. The one who was another representative, Sheridan, had already left on Wednesday. He happened to be the secretary, so he had a lot of things to do in McKinney. So he left ahead of us. Well, we met, And we looked at all the parameters, how things have been going on. This is a power game. It might not be unconnected with a fix. I'm a politician. I know when things are and of course, if you look at the up to when I got there, all the audience here, meaning those who are invited as observers, none of us was given the opportunity, the 21-man committee, that is, to invite even an observer. All we had to gain entrance into that building was our 21-man committee tax. Even when we got there, it was even also not properly arranged in terms of sitting arrangement. But that's besides. As politicians, these are things that we leave to the audience, because we are talking to our people. That was why, because he's a seasoned politician, he did not. He took his courage. He waited until the situation calmed down. Then he read what he read. So for us, we wish the audience would have shown some decorum, to say the least, because when somebody says once upon a time, you must have a story to tell. In a very civil way, allow the man to say something. Then,
all right. Okay, let me cross over to the chairman of the PPRC, Abdullahi Bangura Esquire. I mean, how does the PPRC factor into this court-ordered convention of the opposition of People's Congress?
Well, in the first place, we have a statutory mandate to supervise and monitor every activity of registered political parties. So aside from the order of the courts, we have a mandate that will have taken us there in any case. But the order itself specifically gave us responsibility to monitor the process from its planning state onto the convergence in McKinney. And we were very much part of that exercise. We were with them since the order was pronounced by His Lordship, the judge. We started work straight, and we were meeting in my conference room, the 21-man committee. But because we did not have the luxury of time, we thought that if you have a committee of 21 to deliberate on very urgent issues, I mean, you'll have various opinions that may not help the process. So we chose to create a subcommittee of 10 who were meeting at the party secretariat, and they come up with their decisions to us. After 1 or 2 days, they will come to us again, the 21-man committee, and report everything that was agreed, and then we will endorse that. So the process was very serene, and of course, at some point, the discourse would be a little turbulent, but we had experienced voices there who were able to calm the situation. And at the end of the day, they were able to close ranks, and we came to some agreement that took us to McKinney. So by and large, our role was supervisory, and that was what we played throughout the process.
You are an independent state official. I mean, how did you feel being swarmed by politicians plying their trade?
Well, those are crucibles that come with the job that I have now. So I'm beginning to get used to that. I was comfortable, and I know I'm performing my role as chairman of the Political Parties Registration Commission, and the institution that was charged with the responsibility of supervising the process. So I was there comfortable and prepared to continue with the supervision that we started.
From the PPRC perspective, what obtains next after the adoption of the, the party constitution? After the adoption of a political party constitution, I mean.
Well, what they adopted in McKinney is a party position. So now you may recall that at the end of the exercise, His Excellency, the former president, who doubles as the chairman and leader, handed over symbolically. He handed over the adopted constitution to us, but we respectfully return it back to him. I mean, with the directives that the conference had made some changes, some amendments, so we want those changes and amendments inputted into the draft Then after inputting those changes and amendments, they will now send the draft constitution to us. But don't forget, it is still a draft. It is not yet a constitution until it comes to us, and then we will publish it in the government gazette for 30 days and invite objections from the general public. You don't need to be a member of the APC, because the APC is a national institution. So every member of the public is entitled to critique the documents that will be guiding the operations of the party. So when we publish, we'll invite those objections, and within 30 days, if those objections come, we will compile them and forward them to the party. And thereafter, we will call the objectors and the party to some hearing session where they will argue their case, individual cases. If we think the objections are of substance, we will uphold them and ask that if it's about expunging any provision from the Constitution, that provision be expunged. If it's about adding anything, that issue be added. Then at the end of the day, when all of that is done, when we are back from them, the Commission will come out with a ruling, giving directives. And when the party complies with those rulings, we will again publish the Constitution for the final publication, and the Commission will now determine the period within which the Constitution will become effective.
The PPRC had meetings, I mean, like you just said, with the 21-man committee before traveling to Makini.
Yes.
I mean, did the convention leave much to be desired procedurally from the position of the PPRC?
Well, not really. I mean, they say all is well that ends well. I mean, apart from a few unpleasant happenings, for instance, particularly provocative songs directed against the present government, and I drew the attention of the Secretary General and other stakeholders of the party. I drew their attention to that, and I made it clear to them that this is not complimentary of the purpose for which we are here. And undertakings were made to see that they will try to control those exuberant supporters, because it wasn't all of them. These were people who were outside, who were just happy, and their happiness was not translated in a very civil manner. I mean, they were very obscene, and some profane songs were sung against the government, and those are early warning signs. And I was concerned as chairman of the Political Party Solicitation Commission, responsible for the monitoring of their conduct. And as I said, I drew the attention of senior stakeholders of their party, and I still intend to call them to my office respecting that issue. But apart from that, I think the process went on well, and the outcome is acceptable by
The standard of the PPRC.
Yeah.
All right. There are a few concerns raised by Alfred Peter Conteh after the convention. I mean, this morning he was on SNBC's radio and television.
Yeah, listen.
Yes, he claimed a few districts were, if you like, disenfranchised ahead of the convention. Is this anything that would ordinarily concern the PPRC? I mean, if you were approached?
Not at all. Not at all. Indeed, we are approached. I mean, even when we were in the field, and people came up with suggestion that we should go back to those constituencies and rerun the elections. But I reminded them of the fact that there were timelines, and the party had drawn up a schedule that we were following strictly, because the judge said all of those elections were supposed to have been conducted on or before the 31st of August. So we had that timeline to meet. And from the timetable they drew, I mean, the last set of elections, that is, I think it's the Youth League, 20 representatives from the Youth League, was to happen on the 31st. So I do not like the use of the word disenfranchise, because the committee did what it could to ensure that they comply strictly with the order that was pronounced by His Lordship, the judge. But we went to all of the 132 constituencies with the intention of conducting.
When you say we, the PPRC?
The PPRC was in every place they went. I mean, for areas where the staff strength could not allow us to be everywhere, I, as the chairman of the commission, I was roving. going around to ensure that our presence is felt everywhere. So we were all with them, and we went to conduct the elections. But some people prevented us from doing that by some violent action.
What areas are we talking about?
Constituency 61 in Cambia district, precisely Mambolo. And we have 4 constituencies in Kono, I think it's 26, 27, 28, 29. And then 2 in O, 79 and 87. These were the ones we had problems in. And it's not that we did not go there to do this election. We went there, but people obstructed the process. So as a commission, we took a position. One, we will not want to be seen to condone. I mean, we are set up to ensure that we monitor and supervise the conduct of all political office and political parties. We do not want to be seen to condone acts of lawlessness. The court said, go and do this election. We've been there. So what I told them is, if anybody will want to complain about our incapacity to do the elections in these constituencies, then that person should help us get those people that prevented us from doing those elections. Because these are the people who are supposed to rightfully answer to the judge as to why they obstructed a court-ordered process. And amongst themselves, they decided, well, we are all brothers in this party. We will not want to see any of our members being arraigned and probably committed for contempt of court. So we shelved that issue. This was something that was settled amongst us. They, the 21-man committee, me, the supervisor. We deliberated on those issues extensively, and we came to a conclusion that let us make do with what we have done. We were asked to do 166 elections. We have done 159 of those elections. I think that is more than 98% of what we are ordered to do. And that besides the extant constitution of the party says the quorum for every national delegate conference is 1/3. And from those delegates we had harvested through those elections, the quorum had exceeded 1/3. So I do not see the irregularity people are trumpeting all over the place. And that again, I will repeat, we did not disenfranchise those people. If anything, they disenfranchised themselves by obstructing the process that will allow them to participate in this convention.
Would you rather some discussion was held between them first, after the obstruction, if you like, before eventually, or were you so concerned about what Mr. Tunis described as, time, that was really not in your favor?
Yeah, I was concerned about time, that's one, and I'm also concerned about the safety of my personnel. Because in some of these constituencies, my personnel needed to be rescued by the police and taken to safety areas because of the violence. So as chairman of the commission, I should also be concerned about the security of my personnel. And as I said, we should not be seen to be condoning lawlessness. That was the pivotal reason as to why I was against going back. And at the time they were asking us to go back and redo those elections, time had elapsed. And we could not vary the order of the courts. If we had to go back, we needed an extension of time by the judge. And as at that time, the judge was not even within the jurisdiction. He had gone on holidays. So we could not have gone when the judge said, within this time, you are supposed to have done this. And that time had elapsed. And then we take upon ourselves, without recourse to the judge that made this order, and to go back out of time and redo those elections. That will have amounted to a violation of his order, and possibly we may be arraigned for contempt.
Were any arrests made, do you think?
The areas where these skirmishes were, I was not there. But I think the police came in to calm the situation. I don't know if arrests were effected, but definitely, like for instance in 61, constituency 61 at Mambolo, I was in Kamakwe when I got a distress call from my personnel who was there. The regional officer in Bo was there. And I did what I could do, call the Secretary General, express the concern. The Secretary General promised to call stakeholders in that constituency to ensure that the process goes on. And my personnel was there until 2 o'clock. People could not give us a chance.
Do we know why they obstructed the process?
Well, from the report I got from my personnel was that some people wanted to participate in the process who are not card-carrying members of the party. and who could not be identified by stakeholders of the party as legitimate members of the APC. And the order was very specific, that it was only card-carrying members of the party that were eligible to vote. So, I mean, we could not have deviated from what the order says just to accommodate people that we do not even know, I mean, the legitimacy of their claim as members of the APC.
All right, if you are just joining us, the program is Bottom Line and it's coming your way from our We Here Broadcasting House in Freetown. My guest tonight, the Honorable Ibrahim Bundu, former leader of government business, leader of the majority party in Parliament. He is one of the representatives of the Mr. Alfred Peter Conteh, the plaintiff in the matter before the court. PPRC Chairman Abdullah Bangura Esquire and the Acting Publicity Secretary of the Opposition All People's Congress, Mr. Sidi Yaya Tunis. And we'll now go for a short break and we'll come back. We look at some of the messages that have come in and then see if we can have our panelists to respond to these text messages and probably discuss the issues. We'll now go for a short break. My name is Joseph Ebinda Kapua.
Get into the groove this week and every other week and be part of Bottom Line.
The civil marriage starts at 10 and ends at 3 o'clock. If it's done before that, it's not legal.
Bottom Line, the all-new SLBC radio and television public enlightenment campaign talk show is especially designed to delve into issues and graciously offer you an amazing, appetizing, and satisfying cocktail of in-depth views, comments, analysis, and prognosis by well-grounded experts with wide-ranging knowledge and experience.
When we see a country that is doing the right things, we want to reward them and to help them succeed even more.
Get cracking and tune in to Bottom Line on the SLBC for 60 minutes of incisive and pragmatic good governance interviews, accountability interviews, and personality interviews for the whole story behind the story. What more can you possibly hope for?
Bottom Line, you can't afford to miss it.
We are back. The program is Bottom Line and it's coming to you from SLBC Broadcasting House here in Freetown. You can join us live or you join us on our Facebook page, SLBC TV channel 31. My guest, like I said, the Honorable Ibrahim Bundu, a member of the one of the representatives of Alfred Peter Conteh, the plaintiff in the action before the court. Abdullah Bangura Esquire is chairman, PPRC, Political Parties Registration Commission, and Mr. Sidi Yaya Tunis, acting National Publicity Secretary of the Opposition All People's Congress. Some messages are in already. Thank you very much, Mr. Sidi Yaya Tunis, for educating the general populace about what led us to adopt a new constitution. Adam Adenke on Facebook says they would sail safely for the good of all. The National Executive is undermining the High Court orders by Kuruma APC. We say, keep sending your messages to us. You can send them to the number you find on the screen there. I will again cross over to Mr. Tunis. I mean, with respect to the issue, one of the crucial items that you already have, or provisions of the Constitution, the issue of the 5-year term. I mean, there are reports suggesting that this might probably be a calculated ploy to exempt other members of the party, especially the former vice president of the country, who we understand is also eyeing the flag bearership, but that is yet to be confirmed anyway. But you may want to lay bare again the relevance of the 5-year term insofar as aspiring for national executive position, probably even the flag bearership is an issue as contained in the Constitution.
I mean, I do not know why anyone would think that a constitution that has to do with a party as big as the APC and a party that has governed this country, many years, will target particular individual, when developing a constitution. I mean, I believe the provisions within these constitutions are made with no particular individual in mind, but what could let us function as a formidable party both in governance and in opposition. Like I stated, people had different views, on this particular matter. When we were developing the constitution, some were of the view that it should be 15 years, some were of the view that it should be 20, some were of the view that it should be 5. And the reason people proffered mostly was the fact that, this is the highest office as far as it relates not only to the party but the country itself. And for you to aspire to that position, you must understand the ideologies of the party. It must be proven that you have served this party. Your loyalty should not be questionable. Your understanding of the party philosophy and ideologies, should be outstanding. And so it is, it is not proper to have someone just come in today and then, allowed to, ascend to the highest office of the party. So it was not really done with Chief Samsumana particularly in mind. In fact, I said it this morning. When we started developing this constitution, because I was a member of the Constitutional Review Committee, Alhaji Samsumana had not even expressed interest in coming back to the APC. So there is no provision here targeting any particular individual, and this constitution has no particular individual in it. Not Sidi Tunis, not Honorable Bundu. It is a constitution for the APC and to a large extent also to this nation, Sierra Leone.
Now, what was the nature of the return of former Vice President Samsumana to the All People's Congress Party following his expulsion from the party? Was he returning as any other ordinary applicant or member of the party, or was he being restored to his former position, and continuing therefrom?
Well, that is something that I cannot answer as an individual seated here, because
you speak for the party.
Yeah, in the 95 Constitution, I don't know what the provisions are. But like I stated, the issue of Chief Samsumana is a constitutional issue, and his issue has not been completed. So whatever decision that will have to be taken to address like what you asked for will have to come from the National Delegates Conference, because we have to look at the circumstances under which he was expelled and the reasons why he was expelled. And the decision for him to be expelled was taken by the National Delegates Conference. So if he has to be readmitted, and at whatever status, the decision to readmit him and to whatever status will have to be decided by the National Delegates Conference.
Is that provided for in the letters of your constitution, even if not this one now?
It is, and even the letter written to him by the Secretary General after the decision taken by the National Advisory Committee clearly stated that the decision for him to be expelled was taken at an emergency National Delegate Conference summoned specifically to deal with the issues then, and so his readmission will have to be decided by that same body.
This should be simple in my view. We're talking about expulsion. In other words, probably even deleting your name from the roll, from the membership. This is not any suspension. Correct. Probably where you will stay for a while and then probably your Correct. Return is considered. This is expulsion. Yes. In a way. From what you know as a leading member of the party, ordinarily, is it a case where you can be restored, with respect to what you already have in the law? Because if is in the National Advisory Council you just mentioned also,
committee, yes.
Yes, whether they have to meet and decide the next steps. It should also be based, from on whatever you have in the Constitution. I mean, what is that Constitution saying? I mean, insofar as expulsion is concerned, can you be restored, following the NAC meeting, or is it a situation where you will need to apply again to become a member because you have been expelled?
Of course, you will have to reapply to become a member. Absolutely. I mean, and he has gone through certain stages and he has been responded to. And, for me, that is why it is very clear here. When you are expelled or when you resign, coming back, you have to come back as a new member. I mean, that has been.
So we start counting. The person will start counting from that day.
Correct.
All right. Let me cross over to the Honorable Ibrahim Bundu. I mean, you are a lawmaker. You are a member of the All People's Congress. What is your reaction? How do you see the seeming expulsion, readmission and the like, insofar as the APC membership and constitution in this issue?
Thank you. It's such an interesting discussion here. One of the fundamental rules of a political party is to grow membership. And what is now happening, I had the privilege of asking the Secretary General to give us through PPRC our membership, the membership register. And I will not call the figure here, but it is on APC. When you look at the popularity, you gauge the temperature of how people are talking. When you look at the real membership, it's like you can go to go school, but you're not an urban member. So what I'm talking here is a registered membership.
Yeah.
You have to grow membership. In fact, that's one area where I'm a bit worried. In Constitution, from my own experience, some of these sensitive clauses can be relegated or can be brought in at an area called in the Constitution regulations. Because even when you have good membership, you also want to present a winnable candidate. Let us say, for example, a circumstance arises wherein all those who have all those criteria, 5 years or 10 years or what have you, a circumstance arises that none of them can win your election. But when you put those things under regulations, which are subsidiary legislations, it could help. I'm not saying that putting it in the Constitution, because constitutions are also not written on stones. It can be amended. But so for the avoidance of going back and forth, amending the Constitution and so on and so forth, that is why you are allowed to draw up regulations, rules and regulations. Like when we do a state of emergency, you have to draw regulations explaining the circumstance under which that emergency is being pronounced. So we really need to look at some of this, because now look at the suspicion. Look at where the argument is going, because it is circumstantial, and it's not a fine coincidence that somebody wants to come who was with us, and we are looking at him as if for technical.
But you had a reason for asking him away. I mean, based on the same Constitution.
I know.
Every law.
Yes. I'm speaking as an APC. When Sam Sumana left, we know what we did again to get him back to where he is.
What did you do?
We approached him.
You begged him?
Of course we did. That's clear. I mean, I'm being honest here. I'm an old man of this party. Sam Sumana came in 2006. Officially, unofficially, I don't know how he had been doing the AP, but I knew him then about 2006 when we are looking at as far as we were concerned at that time, he was a winnable candidate for the 2007. This is what I was talking about. So he came, and the circumstance, in politics, his friends today, enemies tomorrow. For whatever circumstances, we took the decision we took as an emergency delegate conference to expel him. After the elections, we saw his political might was still growing. We look at Kono. We were in a critical situation, and in politics, you don't have permanent enemies or permanent friends. We have permanent interest. Our interest then was to win the elections, so we have to beg him. And what happened is now water under the bridge. So we saw that with him again coming to us, it's a sort of growing our membership. We approached people in Kono. We went to him in Ghana delegations. There are records to show that. Let us be very frank here. So if a situation like this presents itself, especially when the order was very specific, in my view, go and resolve membership issue. Believe me, it's a resolution. Be it resolved that all those who left the party under whatever circumstance or please come back, and you'll be processed under the new constitution that we now have. I think that one would have been politically expedient, in my view, and the experience I've gotten over the period.
Do you fear
not going the member? So bringing some of these obnoxious clause, controversial clause, might inhibit our capacity to grow. And if we don't want to, this is the most crucial time that we should use to grow this membership. Because politics is a game number, a game number. You have to have the numbers, and whatever he may say, Sumana has his own political clout. I'm not ascribing a lot of things to him, but he has proven it. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. He left. We asked him to go. He left. It has cost us an election when we are the most popular.
By what statistics?
Of course. You see, I don't speak vacuously. I've headed strong organs of this party. Apart from winning a constituency for 15 years, I had been a regional vice chairman. I control the whole region. I delivered the northern region together with my chairman, of course, with specific assignment to do Cambia and Port Loko. Then we did not have the northwest. Yes, out of 16 seats, I delivered 15. So I know what I'm talking about.
Okay. From your experience, Honorable, and from the facts that we now have, indications that it is less likely for the former Vice President Sam Sumana to be restored to his position following that expulsion. With indications also that ordinarily it would appear as though, if he's a member of the party, then he needed to actually start counting from the day he applied and probably was readmitted. And judging from what you're saying, insofar as the number game is concerned, the relevance of the former vice president is concerned, the fact that you, as a party, you had to even approach Chief Sam Sumana to return to the party, even in your words, begged him to return to your party. Are you afraid, or do you have fears that the fact that that will not be the case, restoring him to the old position, or not being within the bracket of the 5 years, that is likely to affect the party substantially?
We have to be consistent, whether it's politics or not. If you are privileged to have seen a letter, how he was processed up to NAC, the exchanges, it was a reinstatement. So as far as our political party is concerned, this protocol of reinstating, if I begin to call names here about how some people left and they just walked into the party. I'm not saying it's a good practice, but political decisions are made out
on the basis of evidence and probably support to your argument. You can name.
No. For political expediency, please. You see, this party is ours to protect, especially for us senior people who have invested so much time and other attendant things to let the party be where it is, But you see, I'm comforted by the fact that as a lawmaker, now we still have regulations in the constitution, and the laws are also not written. This constitution is also not written in stones. We can enact it today, pass it today, becomes law, and we can amend it tomorrow. So for me, when the circumstance presents itself that warrants those two options, we will definitely do that. It depends on the people who are actually in control, because what has actually brought us to all of this is it has its own administrative lapses and so on. But that
I'll allow the Honorable to rest for a while and invite the quiet chairman of the PPRC, who appears to be more or less in the middle, yes, of all these. I mean, one issue was raised by Mr. Ibrahim Bundu with respect to a letter that was addressed to the PPRC following all of this. I mean, how was that addressed?
It was addressed to me, and I think the issues raised, one of those issues I have already discussed here. The issue of the 7 constituencies that we did not conduct the elections in. And the other issue raised was the issue of the extant constitution of the APC makes provision that all affiliate bodies of that party should nominate or rather elect 2 members to the National Delegate Conference organ of the party. So when those names were submitted as delegates, Alfred Peter Conteh raised issues that those people were not elected. So when I got his letter, I mean, I, as chairman, I do not know how those names were harvested. So what I did was I put the issue before the 21-man committee, and Bundu was there, CD was there as well, that these are the concerns I've received from Alfred Peter Conteh. We discussed those issues, and it came out that from no less a person than Dr. Richard Conteh, I can quote him, that he is aware of the fact that those affiliate bodies that are presented names to be included as delegates, they do exist. And as regards the manner of their selection, I spoke to the Secretary General, and he confirmed to me that those names were elected by the membership of those affiliate bodies. And in view of those responses I got, I thought that they were legitimately included into the delegate list. And nobody countered that with evidence that that did not happen, whilst we are deliberating on that with the 21-man committee. So those were the issues.
All right, let's see what messages again we have here. This one here reads, how can objections be coming from the general public, Mr. PPRC chairman, when this pertains a particular political party? Is it not only for members of the party? I mean, objections to the constitution this person is trying to. This is from Ahmed Kamara from our Facebook page. James Kamara in Port Local says, please ask the PPRC chairman when was, and he's quoting here, resolve membership issues, unquote, expunged from the original order that is in the public domain. If any other interpretation was given to the PPRC, it is not in the public domain, this person here says. Kumba from Dwozak, why was the PPRC chairman present at the convention? I take him as a judge in this case, being present at the crime scene. I take him as a judge in this case, being present at the crime scene. All the different factions have to report back to him. All questions appear to be directed to the PPRC chair?
Yes, I'll start with the first one. I think it's related to the issue of us inviting objections from the general public. In the first place, the APC is a national institution, and it is drawing membership from every nook and cranny of the country. And they are clamoring to take over governance if they are given a privilege by the electorate. So it's a national issue, the constitution of the party. I think since I took over as chairman at the PPRC, I've done 2 constitutions, the SLPP and the NGC. And in all of those circumstances, we invited objections from the general public. And that is what the law says, Section 24 of the Political Parties Act. That is what it mandates us to do. That we are not going to invite. That is why I said what they have adopted in McKinney is a party position. And because the law wanted the Constitution to have a national outlook, this is why they provided that bring it to the PPRC, they publish it, and they invite objection from the general public.
Oh, it's okay. Next question.
Yeah, so the next one.
There's this one talking about your presence at the convention.
Oh, my presence. As I said earlier on, apart from the court ordered me to be there, I am the supervisor and the person that monitors the conduct of all the affairs of political parties registered in this country. So without even the court order, as of right, I'm supposed to be there to observe what is happening. So that was why I was there.
All right. Perhaps we will end with on another note. I mean, another spectacular aspect of the opening session is, in McKinney. I mean, the chairman and leader, Ernest Bai Krumah, the former president, appeared to indict certain members of the party, Mr. Tudis. I mean, he called a few members of the party to the fore, and then, he indicted them that they are the problems, if you like, of the party, and that should there be any destruction, backwardness, underdevelopment or whatever it was, then those people, in his words, we are actually should be held responsible as a matter of fact. Let's have a look at the clip.
You know what to make at the show now, all the money. All them problem here at this party, now they were responsible. Until now, all they see them. When I don't watch them, if after this convention anything go wrong, believe you me, SSF, I go lead a jihad where we go against any other man. Make una munku politics no about this party. Now munku politics.
That was the chairman, at the opening proceedings of the convention. I mean, essentially, Mr. Tunis, what Ernest Bai Krumah there is saying is that the problem of the APC is within the APC, and now he has identified a few officials, behind all of this.
Correct. I mean, you have to look at the context in which he made the statement, and saying that the whole issue is about flag bearership, and that is entirely what our problems are in the APC. And before he got to that, he made a statement that many times these people will meet him, they will agree on issues, and then when they go out, they do something completely different. And that is exactly similar to what I'm seeing here tonight, displayed by Honorable Bundu. The fact of the matter is we all went into McKinney united, and we wanted to come out of McKinney united. And so when we sit on public television, on public radio, whatever we say to our people must be factual, and it must be clear, it must be, honest. The fact is, during runoff, several political party leaders were approached for support in time of runoff. The NGC was approached, the C4C was approached, the ADP was approached. To sit here and say that the APC went to beg Sam Sumana to come back, it is untrue, entirely untrue. Show me any evidence where the APC sent a delegation to Ghana. The APC as a political party sent a delegation to Ghana to beg Sam Sumana to come back into the APC. I mean, we all want to grow our membership. We want people to come back. We have created the opportunity for people to come back. We all wanted a constitution that is inclusive, and we have done that. And that is in the same context that those statements were made by the chairman and leader. Because many times we'll go as a party, we sit, we sign MOUs, we make agreements, we agree on things, we agree on activities, and then when we leave, people go back and say something different to their supporters and their members, and that is why he said that we have all agreed as a party here in McKinney, we have adopted this constitution, and when we leave here, let us go as a united front. But it seems that we still have a problem. Few people still want to, take us back, right. And let us make progress as a party.
All right, now that you have named Honorable Ibrahim Bunda, I'll give him the opportunity,
yes,
as part of fair play, to respond in view of, what the former president was saying. In fact, you have been added now to those that we saw there by Mr. Tunis, insofar as the position of the party is concerned, the issues within the party, the problems within the party, and you just had him there.
Yeah, well, to me, it was unfortunate. I've reacted to this one as a senior member of the party. I think I did it to one of your representatives whom I met immediately after I left the hall. I crossed paths with
granted interview to one of
granted interview, okay. And to say the least, what I know about a keynote speech, you have the key, you have the notes that you have taken from all that has been said. So because that should have been the guiding key, and with the hope he's expressing here that we left to go to McKinney hopeful for unity, very, very hopeful, upbeat, to say the least, that we want to go there united, and we come there united. I think I made similar statements when we were having the press conference. But you see, circumstances change. What happened in McKinney, just like what happened to the Honorable Ibrahim Suri, we call them unfortunate incidents, and that should not derail us. But that should not also stop us from, if you don't introspect into what you are doing, somebody will think that, what I've done is right. What was done on stage at the opening by the chairman and leader in terms of displaying colleagues, that is a leaning that we should have watched. That's not the right platform, to say the least. But see,
you also the former flag bearer of the APC,
yes,
Dr. Samora Kamara,
yes,
the current leader of the opposition
yes,
in Parliament, yes, and a few other officials,
right. How are we going to
describe as a problem?
Yes, how are we going to remarket them tomorrow when we have already, and it is coming from our highest hope, one of our highest hope in the party.
And it's by Kruma.
Yes, I wish that statement would have, would have been said in another fora. But on the area of CD, I want to assure you, you met us in the party, and believe me, I know what I've done and know what I'm doing, and I'm not going to open that, whether it was untrue or not. It's really, I've said what I've said, and I stand by it. Thank you.
Honorable Bunda, I'll stay with you for, maybe just one bite, and then probably we move on. Okay. How would you respond to your chairman and leader, the former president, Ernest Bai Krumah, saying he was now tired and needed to give way to other capable hands.
Well, it's one thing to say it and another to do it. It is in the public domain that these words have been said. These words were said in 2018, 2020 in Port Loco. I've said, we are looking forward to what he's saying. And he has been saying it. We are looking forward to the action, to say the least.
Your parting shots, Acting Publicity Secretary?
We've taken a bold step. It is a huge step for us to have gone to McKinney and adopted this constitution. This has been the wish.
By the way, is there a communique? Have you come out to the press essentially about the real outcome in all of this, apart from your listening?
We just came back. That will come out soon. We even have to, hand over the final draft to the PPRC, reflecting all of the.
What should we be expecting? When you eventually get to the public.
We should be expecting a very progressive constitution that will not only stand the test of time and speak to current and future democratic tenets of the APC, but it will make the APC a more effective party in governance and even in opposition as far as it relates to the service of the people of this country.
And the man in the middle.
Yeah.
The PPRC, your parting shots.
I will use the opportunity to answer to the third question that was asked by the viewers in respect of unresolved membership issue. And my comment will only go as far as the point that it was not discussed in the Emergency National Delegates Conference. And the position of the PPRC was that His Lordship had precluded quite a number of national officers not to participate in the Emergency National Delegates Conference as delegates. And because of that, there was now the issue of getting the quorum, which is the 1/3 of that organ of their party. And His Lordship specifically made that order for the purposes of constituting those components of the National Delegates Conference of the party that were not constituted at all. And that is our reading of that aspect of the order. And precisely that was what was done with our supervision. We went round and constituted those components of the National Delegates Conference that was not constituted by the party as at the time of the order. So the issue of saying that we ought to have discussed ordinary membership issue, the PPRC did not see it that way, without prejudice. And as I said, I am only going to comment on that issue as far as the issue of it not being discussed in the Emergency National Delegates Conference, as respecting provisions that are in the Constitution that people may want to relate to that aspect. For now, I will recuse myself from commenting on the content of the draft Constitution because eventually it will have to come to us, and I don't want to sound prejudicial in the event that somebody may object.
Just before you go, Mr. Tunis made some clarifications at some point in passing about initial orders that were given by His Lordship insofar as those who should attend and those who were excluded, as a matter of fact. Was this part of the orders, the current orders that the party acted upon? The Secretary General, for instance, we understand he was at some point, I think, excluded from the convention.
As delegates.
As delegates also. So how did they get to be part of it?
And the order His Lordship gave was to the effect that the 21-man committee supervised by me, they were to do the planning of this National Delegates Conference on to the point of taking us to the hall. And it was the party and the Secretary General that were ordered to organize a conference in the hall. So he was there in pursuance of the same order, but he was not there as a delegate. And that issue also came up in respect of the participation of the chairman and leader. And I needed to clarify that in another interview, where I made it clear that the chairman and leader has a dual membership of the National Delegates Conference.
What was the express order in respect of that bit? I mean, who had to be excluded expressly by the order?
The NAC, all members of NAC were precluded from participating in this conference. So in that respect, the chairman and leader, being a member of NAC, was precluded from participating in this conference as a delegate. But again, His Lordship went further to name specific national officers that he precluded from participating in this conference. And when he named those, he did not mention the chairman and leader as chairman and leader, and his deputy as deputy chairman and leader.
Was the chairman and leader a member of NAC?
He's a member of NAC.
And NAC was precluded?
Was precluded. Yeah. But again, His Lordship went further because the Secretary General also is a member of NAC. But when His Lordship came down in his preclusion, he specifically mentioned the Secretary General as a Secretary General.
So is it your understanding of the order that insofar as the second order of His Lordship was concerned, the fact that names were mentioned,
specific offices
were mentioned, they may not have been additions to those who were members of NAC, whom His Lordship actually said also should not be part of, should be precluded?
Naturally, in interpreting legal instruments, the specific mention of one thing implies the exclusion of another.
In this instance, it was specifically mentioned that NAC members be precluded.
And in that, as I said, the chairman and leader has a dual capacity, a dual membership in the National Delegates Conference. He's a member of that organ of the party by reason of the fact that he's a member of NAC. And he's a member of that organ of the party by reason of the fact that he's chairman and leader. So he has this dual membership of that organ of the party. So what the court did was they precluded him from participating as a member of NAC. And the Secretary General also is a member of NAC. He was precluded from participating as a member of NAC. But coming down His Lordship's order, he specifically mentioned other national officers, excluding the chairman and leader and his deputy from participating as delegates.
He may have done with them.
Yeah, he should have mentioned them if he wanted to, because he had done with the Secretary General as well, who is also a member of NAC. He had done with other national officers of the parties who are also members of NAC. But he came in to mention them specifically as national officers, that they should not participate as delegates. And in any event, the chairman and leader did not participate as delegates. He recused himself by choice, that I'm not going there as a delegate. I will go there, do the opening address, and then observe the process.
When are you due back in court?
The 6th, I suppose. Yes. The 6th of October.
All right, I'm afraid that's where we have to end this edition of Bottom Line. My panelists have been the Honorable Ibrahim Bundu. He is former leader of government business, majority party in the House of Parliament. Sidi Yaya Tunis is acting National Publicity Secretary of the Opposition All People's Congress, and Abdullahi Bangura, Chairman, Political Parties Registration Commission, PPRC. That's where we end today's edition of Bottom Line. If you missed part of all of this edition, hopefully we'll find time to have a repeat broadcast of this. Otherwise, you will need to join us next Tuesday for a fresh edition of the program. Many thanks to all of you, those who listen through radio, those who followed us on Facebook, those who followed us on satellite, and also here on television. Many thanks to all of you. Hope you have enjoyed this program. Like I said, we are back next Tuesday with a fresh edition. Again, the members of the technical crew, many thanks for putting all of this together. Until we meet next week for a fresh edition, Joseph Igbinda Kapua is name. Wishing you all a pleasant evening. Bye-bye.